All right, Mr. D, there's a lot of insecticides out there on the shelves.
Yep.
A lot to choose from. We need to help those homeowners out.
That's right. It can be kind of confusing. There's first, insecticides can be broken down into 4 major categories.
Okay.
The botanicals, microbial, inorganic, and synthetics.
Right.
I mostly use synthetics, and I use a lot of microbials. But let me give you a couple of examples of each. The botanicals are insecticides that most of them have been made from plants.
Got it.
An example is pyrethrum, which is made from chrysanthemums, neem oil made from the neem tree, and those are a couple of the most common that you see out there as far as.
A lot of people that use the neem oil. Sure.
Some of the botanicals can be pretty tough on pollinating insects, honeybees and things like that, so you've got to be careful. But microbials are very, very interesting. That's Bacillus thuringiensis, BT. This has been around for years and years. It's very, very safe for the environment, safe for pollinating insects. The microbials are generally very specific as the type of insect they kill. The Bacillus thuringiensis kills caterpillars, and it doesn't harm bees, humans, or other insects, beneficial insects.
That's good.
Inorganic insecticides, those are the oils, mostly the summer oils, superior oils that we use. They work very good on insects when you get it, but you have to put the product on the insect. Mostly it blocks their breathing tubes.
Right.
And also good for eggs, insect eggs. It can smother them. You need to be careful and watch temperatures and with that. Insecticidal soaps are another example of an inorganic insecticide. And then kale and clay, I think Surround is the trade name, is also an inorganic insecticide that you're likely to find on the market.
Okay. That's a new one.
Yeah.
That one. Okay.
It's, I think folks in the apple industry use it. It's good for codling moth control, I think is what its strength is. Synthetic insecticides, those are the ones that are most common, the ones that, that's the malathion, the 7, the diazinon. Those are synthetic insecticides. There are several, the synthetic pyrethroids kind of mimic the pyrethrums, the chrysanthemum a little bit, but they last longer, have a longer residual on the plant. Some of those synthetic pyrethroids are permethrin, S-phenvalerate, gamma-cyhalothrin. Those are some of the common synthetic pyrethroids, synthetics. Carbaryl, very, very common, been around a long time. It 7, I think, is the most common trade name for carbaryl, and it works really good on insects with chewing mouth parts, like caterpillars and things like that. Malathion is another very, very common insecticide out there. Works best on insects with sucking mouth parts, like aphids and maybe a stink bug every once in a while.
You said maybe?
Then you have acetaminoprid is another synthetic, imidacloprid. It's a systemic, and those are examples of synthetic insecticides that are out there. No matter what kind of, whether it's a botanical or synthetic or inorganic, or no matter what kind, you need to read the label. Be sure you read the label, follow the label.
That's right.
Just because you have one that you perceive to be organic and safe doesn't necessarily mean that it's totally safe as far as humans are concerned. So read that label, read and heed. The label's a legal document that a lot of money, the companies put a lot of money into developing those labels, and EPA has looked at them very, very closely, and they are legal documents, and we are bound by law to follow them, not only because they're legal, but because it can save you.
That's right.
It can keep you from getting hurt.
That's a good point. Read and heed.
Read and heed.
I like that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about this. So should we rotate those insecticides? How do you feel about that?
Probably a good idea to do that. I tend to try to use the one that is the least harmful and least likely to affect pollinating insects, which, if I can, I will go with the biological, like the BT. But then again, sometimes you can't do that if it's not a caterpillar. If it's in fruit trees, there are sucking insects, and there's all kinds of things. But it's always a good idea to rotate because if you don't, insects can build up resistance, and you let a few survive that doesn't, the product doesn't kill, and they reproduce, and then next year you got a bigger problem.
Right.
Some of these insecticides will kill mites, and there are some beneficial mites out there, and some will kill beneficial insects that kill the bad mites, and so sometimes you will have an explosion of bad insects if you continue to use the same insecticide that does that. So it's a good idea to rotate if you can.
If you can.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about action threshold, right? So when do we need to start using these insecticides? Or when should you start using insecticides?
Every insect pest, probably there is an economic threshold for farmers are concerned. They'll let the insects build up to the point where they will affect their pocketbook. That's an economic threshold.
Okay.
There's an aesthetic threshold, is where you can let them build up to the point where they start looking bad. And scale insects and things like that, and chewing insects can rapidly reach that threshold. But basically, the reason you want to allow insects to build up to reach these thresholds is because of the predator-prey relationship. You can't have predators, you can't have good insects if they don't have anything to eat.
That's a good point.
And if you let them build up, many times you let these insects build up a little bit, give them a chance to build up a little bit, because many times beneficial insects will come in and take them out. And I can give you an example on pecan trees. It's 30 yellow aphids per leaf on a compound leaf of pecans, and most of the time, if you let it never reaches that level. It may get up to 15 or 20, and then the ladybugs and the lacewings and the beneficials come in and take them out.
That's good. That is good. Yeah, it sounds like an IPM plan.
It is integrated pest management.
Yep,
no doubt.
That sounds
good
like
idea.
That
All
is
the way.
good. That is good stuff. Appreciate that, Mr. B.
No,
Good stuff.
don't forget.
Yep.